story timers, it's your favorite story timer Andy behind the camera, plus a laptop. So let me explain. A few days ago, I received some anonymous stories from an anonymous author. But what if the anonymous author wasn't even in existence? What if it was me? Today, we're going to figure out if the stories I read was written by me or by someone else. I already know the answer, but what's your take on it? Do you think this is a story of a professional author or an amateur? Let's get right into the show. Okay, so here we have the document that the anonymous author sent me, and it is on a Wikipedia page. Well, not really Wikipedia. Oh, the Blue App W page. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, it's on there because that is how they wanted me to put it on. I am not going to say the author's gender, or else I might give something away. Now, here we can see the story that they sent me is called A Heart of Steel. Let's look at the front cover, which is AI generated because they want the illustrator of their story to know what the picture they're thinking of is. So for the top of this picture, you see that there's some blue flame. It's nighttime. Looks like it's in the woods. And there's some sword and shield, magical one. And then down at the bottom, there's blood. Now, I don't know why there is blood. You might know why there is blood when it comes to a sword and a shield. But the author specifically told me, because I've read this book before, but they decided to resend it again for specifics of this detail. See here that this is set in medieval times. And there is some magic in this book. But let's start with the prologue. 20 years ago. Now I'm going to read this book facing sideways, so you do not see the words, but I can see the words. Let's get on with it. Prologue. 20 years ago. A dark, cloaked and hooded figure ran through the tall forest carrying a bundle in their arms. It was noon and the sun shined on the figure's face, showing the cuts that they must have gotten from the low-hanging branches as they ran. The figure did not seem to want to stop running, or let go of the small bundle either, but eventually they had to stop for fear of loosening their grip on the bundle, and from want of breath. The hood dropped as the figure placed the bundle on the wet grass, for it had rained the previous night. We could now see the figure was a male. A young man with jet black hair and mustache, Lord Grey was evil, but not as evil as the bundle's family, for this bundle turned out to be a blond newborn baby boy with a pale and sickly face. Lord Grey wiped the sweat from his mustached face and began to tend to the baby boy. The baby's family was that of Count Eric and Countess Eileen, and they were eviler than Lord Grey could ever be. The Count had one young son named Tyler, who was 5. Tyler would inherit his father's title and wealth once Eric passed away, which wouldn't be for many years. Last night the Countess gave birth to the blonde baby, and when Lord Grey heard of it, he stole the child in the dead of night, and putting it on his hooded cloak, he had ran with the child into the woods, only stopping to give the child milk which Lord Grey had in a small bottle, also stolen from the crib. His plan? To hide the young boy in the woods, and hope someone would find the infant and care for him as their own. Now back to Lord Grey. He picked up the baby boy in his arms and gave the baby the milk bottle. The baby, whose name was Collins, drank to the full. Lord Grey talked to the baby, even though he knew that Collins would never answer back. You ate more than the princess did when she was young. I hope you grow up better than her, though. My niece is so bossy. Lord Grey was the princess's uncle, and her most trusted advisor and server. Lord Grey, though evil, would never betray the royal family, or so he thought. Little did he know that in 20 years how steel-hearted he would become. Collins finished eating and began to wail. Lord Grey rewrapped the baby and shushed Collins till the babe fell asleep. Then the Lord tucked the baby under some berry bushes and left the bottle as well. He was about to continue running when he heard hooves mark the soft earth. They were coming up in a gallop, and Lord Grey wasn't fast enough. The horse socked him in the ribs before he had a chance to get out of the way. As they lay there stunned and dazed, he heard 2 voices. My lord, oh my word, I'm sorry, are you hurt? And, Uncle, how are you doing here? The first voice was Princess Sarah's manservant, who jumped off his horse and bent down to assist Lord Grey. Lord Grey groaned as the servant fell his master, and then the servant stepped back as Lord Grey got unsteadily to his feet, clutching his ribs. He leaned against a tree and studied the rocky path. The princess must have been riding and not looking for her uncle, or else the group would have been larger, and the princess would have said something different. The 10-year-old princess alighted from her horse, which was smaller than the servant's. She ran over to her uncle and curtsied as she said, "Uncle Grey, my lord, what have you been doing in the forest? Have you lost your senses? And what has happened to your face, uncle? You must be starving. I can have my servant give you his horse, and he can ride with me." Lord Grey growled again and said, "Your Majesty, I was just feeling somewhat ill and decided to have a stroll in the woods. I got lost, that's all. I see you have been practicing your riding. Collins is awake." Lord Grey slid down the tree and sat on the ground in pain as the baby began to cry again. The servant looked bemused and grinned a boyish grin. He watched as Sarah bent down, her dress touching the leafy forest floor, and stood up holding the newborn boy and milk bottle in her arms. "Lord Grey, did you know this baby was here all along? Were you going to take him to my palace?" Lord Grey stood up again and nodded, looking down. The princess coddled the boy in her arms and put kisses all over Colin's face. Colin stopped his lament and fell back to sleep. Lord Grey sighed and limped over to where the servant was standing, and the servant hurriedly helped his master onto the dapple-grey horse that whinnied in confusion. Lord Grey gasped and clung painfully to the horse's neck. Then the princess lovingly gave Collins to the young servant, who was 16 at the time. The servant, who will be known as Nick hereafter, took Collins and mounted the other horse gingerly. Princess Sarah also mounted her horse, and the 2 horses and 3 people rode out of the forest, leaving behind its mysteries and importance that it will be for the later chapters. Lord Grey, meanwhile, cursed his beaten luck and hoped that the princess wouldn't do anything like knight the boy or adopt him and such. Little did this man know. So what do you think? Was the prologue a satisfactory professional author prologue, or did it sound like an amateur made it? Let me know, and the next time I make the poll, I'm gonna ask those same questions, and you guys can let me know that way. Since comments don't really work, I have to use the polls to an access, really, so that you guys can talk to me in your own special ways. Even if it's limited, it's still like we're having an online conversation using the comments of the video. Remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons for more awesome content with Anytime Storytime and her faithful computer. Goodbye, guys. Thanks for watching. Adios.